Hello guys, this is your friend and we are back with a new fanfic. Which is What If Naruto Has a Golden Dragon Bloodline Part 1. And if you enjoy this fanfic then please press the like button and subscribe to my channel for more fanfic like this. And now let's start the fanfic. A young blonde teen male of 16 years of age, wearing a ruined neon orange jumpsuit, gazed at his chest where there was a gash, pouring out his life's blood. He raised his eyes to meet the blank mask of the fake hunter Nin that now held a bloody kunai. The same kunai that had moments ago began to descend upon his teammate, Sasuke Uchiha. The pain was too great. He couldn't speak, his mouth would not move. He creaked his neck around as best he could and focused his eyes on the down comrade that he had just protected. Live, long, Sasuke. Those were his last words, his final lamenting words for a world he was leaving behind. Naruto Uzumaki then fell upon his left arm and rolled to his side, the life that so often filled his deep crystal blue eyes slowly slink away for eternity. Oh 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 oh. Sasuke Uchiha watched in shocked silence as the body of his teammate began to pale as all his blood dripped rapidly to the ground. He did not move as his eyes moved from his dead teammate towards the hunter Nin that shook his head. He had true potential, what a waste. A man was dropped next to him. Zabuza Momochi glared at the hunter Nin and said, "So you only killed one Haku," dropping an unconscious silver-haired man next to Sasuke. "I swear you are getting soft. Anyway, Kakashi wasn't that much of a challenge, after you know how to get around the Sharingan." Moments later yet another Zabuza appeared behind Sasuke, holding an unconscious Tazuna and a struggling Sakura, who immediately entered into a state of shock as she spotted her dead teammate. And of course, these two were absolutely no problem. Before anyone could say a thing, Kakashi began to stir as a clapping noise filled out the immediate area. I must admit I am impressed. Zabuza, the original, turned to where the clapping had come from, revealing Gato with a small army of thugs. "Shut Gato, all I want is my pay and I will be on my way." "You see, about that. Somewhere else." Naruto opened his eyes to stare in amazement. There is no way that this is hell. There stood our favorite blonde, floating in what appeared to be a blue sky, with few clouds, stretching in every direction. "Why would you be sent to hell, young one? You have done no wrong." Naruto turned around and came eye to eye with the most beautiful woman he had ever seen, all minus one of course. Wearing a black kimono that hid her body completely from view, a woman stood with a pale face, possessing long white locks that stretched down to the nape of her back. Her face was curved and slightly pointy. But what got his attention were her desert sand-colored eyes that added some sort of exotic appeal. The smile on her face as he slightly began to blush only grew wider as she said, "Even before you say anything, another person's sins will not be placed upon another soul just because they are connected, even in the slightest way. You will not pay for the demon's sins, for it will pay for them itself." As if there had been an unseen signal, Naruto felt a sudden drain upon his spirit. As he watched a red sphere separated from his stomach area and floated to a point slightly ahead of him. A sudden roar of intense pain assaulted his ears. Two glowing red eyes appeared within the sphere. Below it, opened a hole, which was filled with intense flames and even more screams, as if millions suffered pain and calamity. A skeletal hand suddenly lunged out of the burning flames and plunged into the red sphere. With some struggle that lasted a few short seconds, a ghostly image of a fox slowly was pulled towards the burning pit. Suddenly it was over, for with a fierce cry of despair, the fox was yanked into the flames, the hole to the flames shutting behind it. For its crimes the beast is sent to the flames, all is well, for starters. Naruto did not say a thing but remained quiet, gazing at the place where the fox had vanished from. The woman dropped her smile, replaced with a look of anger. "You still feel guilty for the sins of a murdering beast? How can you fellas such as beyond me boy, but know this, you are no demon, nor will you ever be, so snap out of it." She smacked him with a smack that sounded like a loud thunderclap. The boy's blue eyes refocused as a red mark appeared on his face. He smiled, a true pure smile, and said, "Thanks, I guess I needed that." "No problem, but now to the reason why I summoned you here. You are not taking me to heaven, but aren't I dead? You are Naruto-kun, but you will not go to heaven, but you will return to the world of the living." Naruto let his jaw drop but was unable to say a thing as the woman continued, only to shock him even further. "I am Kami, goddess of the world you and your race live in. Long ago I was not." Naruto interrupted and said, "What do you mean? Let me explain, so don't interrupt me. Where was I? Oh yes, long ago I was not the god of this world, I was merely a spectator awaiting my chance to rule over a world. Many millennia after this world had died under its first god, it was ready for a new one. I petitioned the council, the ruling group over all gods, to be given custody of the world. It was granted to me as I was the only one requesting it. As such, I was able to mold this world as I saw fit under a set of guidelines. Skipping all the pointless details, I created the 9 Biju as guardians for the world, to protect it against those who sought to end it earlier to control it themselves. My idea did not work, as you know, and they themselves tried to conquer the world, but one by one, they were taken down by mankind. I brought you here, child, for one reason. More like two, but the second one is more of a private thing." Naruto tilted his head, missing the look of longing that appeared on Kami's face for a brief instant. He asked, "What is that reason, the Kami-sama? I doubt that it's for tea and crumpets." Kami smiled gently and responded, "I'm getting to that. In this world's past life, there existed thousands of races, but only 3 were considered dominant. They were humans, winglies, beings like humans but they could wield immense power and had white wings on their back, and dragons. Sadly, the winglies let their power get up to their heads, causing them to be selfish and greedy, enslaving the world in a blanket of tyranny. After millennia of suffering, mankind had enough. They rose up in a turbulent storm of rage and fought of their chains with the help of Emperor Diaz and the dragons, along with their chosen knights, the Dragoon. Millions died on both sides, but in the end, the winglies ceased to exist." Naruto tilted his head and asked, "Again, why am I here?" Kami nodded. "I am giving you a mission. Destroy the other 8 Biju and bring peace to this world. To do this I have received permission by the god that ruled over the world of the Dragoons to revive the Knights of the Dragons in you and begin a bloodline with you at its center. The strongest Dragoon will be the Kaln head, the strongest out of all 8 branches." Naruto nodded and said, "It would be an honor to start a clan for you, Kami, but people like the council in Konoha will try to control me. What would you have me do then?" "Not to worry, all will work out for you, Naruto. But the only problem you will have is being with multiple women, I presume." "Yeah, that is what. Wait, multiple women?" The grin upon Kami's face only grew as she began to talk again. The 9th Dragoon belonged to a very picky dragon, so picky that it did not even choose a knight to join the ranks during the dragon campaign ages ago under Emperor Diaz. She was known as the Golden Heart Dragon. Possessing power over all the elements, she was the strongest dragon in the known world. But even with such power, she never had the desire to rule the world, just to protect it. She died after many millennia of sleeping, waiting for the right one to wield her power as her knight, but the person never came. The closest one to ever come close to gaining her power was one known as Dart. But due to several problems in his heart, he never was able to get closer. Yet even in death, she wished to be able to lend her power to one worth heart, and she found you, Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze, son to the Yellow Flash, Minato Namikaze, and the Crimson Death, Kushina Uzumaki. Naruto's face was blank as the last 2 names registered, so, he said, "My father, my own father, was the one who damned me to that torture." Kami nodded slowly, her cheer gone, and replied, "He regretted not even a second after he entered to heaven, for his soul was too pure to remain in Shinigami's stomach, Also did not help that Kushina nearly beat the crap out of my brother, so she could just beat her husband for doing that to you. Yeah, well, after that and seeing the people that he trusted nearly kill you, he begged me to revive him so he could protect his son. I refused, for that is against the rules, passed by the God's Council, but then did the Golden Heart Dragon enter and give us the ultimate solution. Naruto said with a questioning look in his eyes, "Make me her knight." Kami nodded as a bit of her cheer came back. She said, "I have never seen a heart so pure, a heart so strong that not even the will of all the gods combined would move, a heart to last the ages in the memory of history and legend. He will be my knight whether the gods will it or not." Naruto could not help but let a smile adorn his face, a true smile that reflected his happiness at being acknowledged for who he was. And, Kami continued, that is why we kept Kyuubi's power. You see, when the god of this world's past allowed to recreate the dragoons, I had to revive at least one dragon and from there more dragons would be born. But to revive a beast of such power would require me to use an enormous amount of power. Even more so, for the Golden Heart Dragon. Thankfully, I was able to get Uehara and now Yukao. What happens? Naruto nodded and asked, but do I have to have multiple? Yes, no choice. But, none of that either. But, I said you have to have multiple women, for a heart such as yours is too great to only let one woman have. Besides, how in the world would you be kept calm with that demonic stamina of yours if I didn't help you release it the right way as pleasing women around the world? Naruto's brain was beginning to crash, but it did so fully at Kami's next words, including myself, I am a woman with needs, you know. Naruto felt himself blacking out, but one last phrase managed to enter his ears, "We will speak again, young knight, but now, pick up your swords, and fight." A single orb of light descended down from the high clouds. Oh 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 oh. A pair of crystal blue eyes, seemingly glowing, slowly creaked open. They snapped open instantly at the sight before him. He still laid where he had fallen and belled to death, but his companions were not. Surrounded by dozens of thugs, his teammates and sensei were kneeled on the ground along with Zabuza and Haku. Behind him he heard the wailing of the villagers. Quiet. Lord Gato wished to speak. A small impish man stepped up onto a stone block that had been moved. Now listen up, maggots. This land is mine and so are you. I can do with you as I wish and you had not the right to go and try to overrule me. So now will be the end. You all will become slaves, your women will be toys for men around the world. But before you all leave, you see the death of your heroes, after we use these two whore for ourselves. The man, Gato, descended from the stone with an evil laugh and began to make his way behind Sakura, who looked at him in fear. He moved his hands towards the belt of his pants when he noticed that his eyes were not focused on him, once holding fear but now surprise and shock, behind him. He turned only to nearly collapse at the sight that was there before him. Dead men were not supposed to get back up. For there before him stood the supposedly dead Naruto Uzumaki, looking really, really pissed. He began to glow before every person's eyes, the huge gaping scar on his cheek closing as if it had never been there. You touch her in any way, his voice sounded out, barely holding back his rage, I'll kill you. Letting out a tremendous roar, his voice echoed, sonic roar. There was no preparation. There was no warning. A huge burst of power erupted from around Naruto, knocking the shocked Konoha team to the ground, along with the two nuke nin from Mizu. The thugs that were hired by Gato were thrown over the edge of the bridge into the frigid waters below, while the rest were knocked down the bridge with freighting force. The team formed Konoha Nad. The pair from Mizu got up from the ground with stiffness and stared at their companion, who moments ago was thought to be dead. Only to spread their eyes in open shock and surprise. Naruto floated off the ground by a few inches, a pair of golden wings erupting from his back. A pair of golden shoulder guards covered his shoulders, shaped like diamonds, connected to his chest plate, also in a similar golden color. A round clear diamond was above his heart, with a gold slit making it look like a dragon's eye. His hands were inside a pair of gold gloves while his forearms were enclosed in a set of gold bands. A set of gold pants covered his legs, open and loose, while a set of golden armor boots were tied onto his feet. A golden thick kilt was tied around his waist. A few of the thugs got up, groaning. All of them were shocked when they spotted Naruto. Gato was one of the few who was slower to get up, cradling an injured arm. Ignoring the sudden appearance of the armor, he cried, "Kill him!" The thugs drew weapons varying from large swords to flails. With bloodthirsty sneers they charged at Naruto, ignoring the still shocked nins. Naruto's blue eyes were sharp and cold, like a sheet of ice, yet anyone could see that they were not his one. He raised his hands to the sky and opened them so that they could be palm up. Slowly time seemed to slow down as two golden orbs formed in Naruto's hands. Making fists, he closed them over the orbs, and thus a bright pulse of light ensued forth, ignored by the thugs. As the flash of light faded, Naruto was shown to hold on to two long medieval long swords, made completely out of what appeared to be crystal. Both were a gold-bronze color with a vein of silver crystal running through their centers. They looked beautiful, but even the thugs knew that they were not for show. Yet, they ignored them and kept charging on, some crying out war cries. They charged at him, but they stopped as Naruto rose up into the air. From a nearby boat, the rest of the men that Gato had brought along were climbing back up onto the bridge, but they were too late to stop the force of nature that was Naruto. Naruto seemed to reach a predetermined height before he tensed up and dived. His swords had no mercy. The moment he met the first thug, his swords cut through him, leaving only bloody pieces in his wake. He moved among them like a bird of prey, using his sword to chop off limbs and cut others in half, many screaming to their deaths. He occasionally rose into the air again to give him another chance to dive down again. He apparently reached a limit when he moved back from the remaining thugs. Only a few were left from the original force that had come onto the bridge. "This is the end for Gato," was all Naruto said while letting loose an enormous war cry. His swords then began to glow and he swung twice, once for each sword. An arc of intense light exploded down the bridge and came into contact with the frightened thugs, too scared to even move. What was left in the wake of such a tremendous attack was naught but pieces of what were supposed men. The most discernible piece among them was a head, Gato's head. Naruto's sword vanished into the air around him. His eyes slowly became his own. As the swords completely vanished, water exploded from underneath the bridge and washed over the carnage. Once the water was gone, there was nothing left on the bridge. Not a scrap of evidence was left. The armor faded, leaving Naruto in a ruined orange jumpsuit, which could only be called rags, exposing a lot of his skin and muscles, which turned on many on the observing woman. "We won," were his only words as his kind loving eyes shut and threw him into darkness. Loud noises, screaming filled the air as a huge banging noise. Naruto Uzumaki growled as he pulled a pillow over his head. Yet the noise steadily increased, to the point that he was able to hear voices. "Make him give me his power, it's rightfully mine." The next one was different though, just as loud. "No it doesn't, Sasuke. You saw what he did, if you just charged in there he will kill you." This was before a scream of pain echoed through the pillow. Not even realizing that he had moved so fast, Naruto was at the door to his bedroom, yanking the door open. There on the ground was Sakura with a red and blue mark growing on her face, specifically, her right cheek, as if she had been punched. "Dobi!" yelled the resident gay emo, "Sasuke Uchiha, give me your power, now!" Naruto ignored the boy, instead kneeling next to his down teammate. "You okay, Sakura-chan?" Nodding slowly, blushing slightly as Naruto's hand caressed her cheek gently, she said, "Yeah, thanks Naruto. Listen to me Dobi, give me you." He never got to finish as Naruto's fist met his pretty boy nose. Sasuke flew down the hall that held the bedrooms of Tazuna's house, crashing against the far wall with a sickening crunch. A head that possessed gravity-defying silver hair looked around the corner of the stairs that led downstairs, right next to the wall that the Uchiha had just rammed into. Looking at Naruto, Junin Kakashi Hatake asked, "Was that really necessary, Naruto?" "Yes, the idiot hurt Sakura-chan, which is the only reason I need to beat his gay." Kakashi shook his head while Sakura looked at the young man before her in surprise. He stood there with his bare back towards her, wearing only boxers. His muscles seemed to ripple as his back straightened, giving Sakura the impression that he had apparently held back for years at the academy, hiding it all. Her blush deepened as she suddenly had an image of her hands running over that strong back, rubbing against a young man that looked truly like a boy, if a little short. He turned back to her and asked, "Come on, Sakura, get up, it's wrong that your cute little butt is on the ground." She couldn't move. Her eyes were focused on Naruto's chest, his bustling six-pack with the well-built pecs and the muscles that were taut, yet not too large as if he had really worked out, like a bodybuilder. Though what did get her by surprise was that Kakashi had moved down the stairs, carrying Sasuke, and where he once stood, now stood Tsunami, Tazuna's gorgeous 20-year-old daughter. She stared at the young teen's muscled back and said with a stutter, "NNNRT2." He turned back to the beautiful woman and her eyes widened as the sight of Naruto's chest made her blush a very deep crimson. Sakura felt an emotion that she believed she would never feel for the blonde idiot. Was it jealousy she felt, as Tsunami eyed her teammate in a very perverse manner? Yes, Tsunami-chan. If her blush could get deeper, it did, she stuttered, "BB Reek FFF asked TT. It's ready?" Naruto asked, with a glow in his eyes. Tsunami did not trust her voice as her black hair dropped in front of her eyes, hiding her blush, even though Naruto was as clueless as a monkey holding a banana. "We'll be right down, just let me get dressed." And thus, the idiot of Team 7 walked into his room as if nothing had happened. Sakura looked at Tsunami, both sides' pent emotions slowly leaked away. Short time skip. Naruto ate pancake after pancake at breakneck speed, never realizing that Wave never had enough supplies to make even one of the delicious fluffiness. But contrary to the beliefs of many, Naruto Uzumaki was not as stupid as many believed him to be. So, he asked the group around the table, a smiling Tazuna and Inari, blushing Sakura and Tsunami, a pissed Sasuke and a porn-reading Kakashi, "Anybody mind telling me how we are eating pancakes when the bridge isn't even finished yet?" This time, the pleasant looks from around the table were replaced with surprise and shock. Sakura was the first to speak. "Naruto, you've been out for a week." Naruto blinked at his pink-haired teammate with open curiosity as his expression basically said, "What the fuck are you talking about?" Kakashi put down his little orange book and said, "Doesn't surprise me." "Huh," was the general consensus that spread around the table as every pair of eyes focused on him. Closing his eyes, Kakashi began, "There is a theory that has traveled around called blood control. Just as a paraphrase, the theory states that a wielder of a bloodline will fall under the control of his blood if he feels a very powerful emotion the moment he awakens his bloodline. Usually such an emotion would be rage or despair." Sakura looked at him and asked, "How can blood control someone, sensei?" Kakashi opened his eyes, having the first ever completely serious expression. Even when he was going against Zabers he did not have such a serious expression. "His blood did not literally control him, Sakura. What I meant was that the knowledge of how to wield his bloodline was forced out of his blood into his mind, taking control. The knowledge though causes the mind of the actual person to be buried for a short span of time, as such they have no memory of what they did, and just that they awoke their bloodline." Sasuke took an evil smirk on his face as he said, "You mean he wouldn't remember the 80 thugs, Gatos counted, that he slaughtered without mercy?" Every pair of eyes glared at him with rage, but he did not care, for the prick wanted to see Naruto in despair, crying in a corner and being 100% emo, but when Sasuke turned to Naruto with a smirk only to see his target wolfing down more pancakes in restless abandon, only one word exiting his stuffed mouth. "So?" Tsunami asked, as Kakashi, Sakura, Tazuna, Inari and Sasuke, as the two unseen guests that stood in the corner who have up to this point been forgotten in the writing of this passage, stared in shocked surprise. But what you did was murder Naruto. Naruto had a quick response to the accusation, no it wasn't. Sakura yelled, yes it was you dumbass. You murdered them. He cries ended when Naruto stared at her with coldest eyes she had ever seen aside from the event on the bridge. His icy words rang around the room, yet he only spoke in a whisper, are you really that stupid you arrogant little bitch? There is a difference between killing to protect others and killing just because you can. Those men probably loved the feel of the power they got when holding a person's life in their hands. What I did was kill the worthless little shit stains and hope that they now burn in the deepest pits available in hell for they have done to people. If you can accept that about this world Sakura, that you either kill to protect or because you can, then you should quit being a ninja for if you don't you will die before your time. With a loud clatter, Naruto dropped his chopsticks on the table and left the room walking up the stairs. All was silent, eerie silent as his words crept into each of their hearts, even Sasuke's junk piece. He is right you know. Zabuza made himself know, wearing what he wore at the Battle of the Bridge just with some bandages wrapped tightly across his chest. He continued, the boy is the strongest kid I know, to kill so mercilessly, yet see it is what had to be done. Many would break under that sort of pressure. And you are one to talk I guess. Was Sasuke's quick retort as the rest of the table remained silent, Naruto's words now lost to him. Yes. I was the type of guy who killed because he could. I did not care as long as I killed something. His gray eyes not possessed a far-away look as Haku looked at her master in worry, occasionally jumping her eyes to the stairs that Naruto had climbed with a slight blush, only caught by Tsunami. Sudden thoughts entered both women's eyes as each nodded covertly to the other a very sister plot molding in their heads. Zabuza continued, I killed wherever I went, not a shred of remorse left my soul, till I was ordered to kill a little girl to send a message to her father to keep quiet. When I was about to kill her, the little girl's eyes focused on me. I saw in them the defenseless little girl, who had done nothing wrong. He breathed. I warned the father and he was able to move his family far away from the reach of the Mizukage, and that was when I began to plan the revolt against that detested slug bastard. You can see how that ended. He focused his eyes on the team from Konoha, yet, he already knows what took me years, and countless corpses, to learn. He will go far, that Naruto will. Kakashi looked at Zabuza with open curiosity as Sakura voiced the question that they all wanted to ask, how far? Zabuza spoke with a level yet powerful voice, farther than any god would ever be able to achieve, for he will stand alone against the tide of fate and stop it dead in its tracks, all to protect the world, and all those in it, whether he hates them or not. Naruto appeared before the table. All of them stared at him in surprise as he sat down quickly and said, sorry. No problem Nar. I forgot to eat my last pancake. In which he did as everyone around them fell face first to the floor in a huge crash, faces imprinted on the floor and table. Naruto stood, staring out the window from his room. The rest of the team was out patrolling the village along with Zabuza, while Tazuna and Inari were out at yet another party. So why was the hero of Wave stuck indoors while everyone else was outside? His door was tapped shut with chakra-enhanced tape, the same with his window so he could not get out. And what did he do to deserve this? Simple. Pissed off the whole household. You see, Naruto loved to play pranks and as such, when he learned the shadow clone, he began to ponder, and when Naruto thinks, things begin to explode. That is what literally happened, just not with fire, but with bright neon orange paint. Crickets chirping. Naruto sighed as he voiced, come on, it was funny. No, it was not Naruto. He snapped around to find Tsunami in a bathrobe standing at the door which was again being closed shut behind a nervous-looking Haku, who also wore a bathrobe, by a severely beaten Zabuza, who looked at Naruto with a look that said I'm sorry. Naruto did not want to know why he was being given such a look, and he had the painful feeling that he was going to find out. Tsunami had a look that Naruto had never seen before, the same look that replaced Haku's nervous one. You owe me something, Naruto, for drenching me in bright orange paint, Tsunami said. In ruining my favorite kimono, Haku interrupted. And that, Tsunami continued, so, you are going to pay us back, pleasantly. Naruto swallowed as he stared at both women, with the looks that he now recognized as lust, mixed with love. Naruto backed himself into the corner as the woman slowly moved forward. They lunged at the boy, Naruto leaping over them and running to the far corner of the wall, with a look of fright on his face. Leave me alone, he said with a hilariously dramatic tone. Never, spoke the hot woman as they chased their prey around the room. The chance around the room ended in a moment of luck for the woman, for a mysterious banana peel appeared on the floor directly in Naruto's path, forcing him to slide straight into the wall, and thus did it become official. Naruto Uzumaki's near-endless luck only lasted when women were not involved. Before he knew it, Naruto had been forced onto the small bed and his arms had been tied to the headboard behind the bed. Hugh struggled and pulled against the bindings only to stop as a hand rested above his crotch. Don't even think, Naruto, Tsunami said with a look of care present in her eyes, that we only want you because you saved our lives, to reward you in one single night. She placed more pressure on his crotch, feeling him harden under his pants. Haku continued, her thoughts identical to Tsunami's, we want to reward you for the rest of eternity. You see, I see someone who has shared the pain that I have, yet never fell to the pressure, unlike I almost did. I love you, Naruto, and I see your heart, one that would let anyone in, no matter if they be human or demon, male or female, you care for all equally. I love you for the heart that calls out to me, reaching to mine that now lies in the eternal darkness of pain and suffering. My heart answers yours, two pieces of a lost puzzle finally being put together. Both Naruto and Tsunami stared at Haku, saying at the exact same time, very poetic. Haku's only response was, thank you, with a large grin plastered on her face. Tsunami turned to stare into Naruto's deep blue eyes as she said, but it is like she said, your heart calls to me and mine calls back to you, we have answered. I love you, Naruto Uzumaki, I love you as you love me, for I hear it in your heart. Naruto's eyes began to tear up as he admitted it to himself. For he had heard it too, the sounds of two beating hearts, calling out to the world in sadness and pain for someone to love and cherish, someone to hold them. A heart had answered and now they were to be as one. Can you untie me at least? Naruto asked innocently. Tsunami and Haku smiled, and untied him. Opening parenthesis. Naruto deposited her on the bed, laying her in the safe confines of the sheets underneath her bathrobe. She moaned when Naruto released her lips in disappointment, but she nearly screamed when Naruto began to put pressure with his tongue at the juncture where the neck and shoulder met. The pleasure was too much for Haku, an outright virgin, could take in thus she her first orgasm of the evening, leaving a slightly salty smell in the air. Naruto looked at her in the eye and smiled evilly. His hands moved slowly towards the cloth belt that held the robe together, looking at her straight in the eye. Go ahead, Naruto-kun. He smiled again as the belt became untied and the robe opened up, freezing Naruto in his place. Haku blushed as Naruto licked his lips in a sensual manner, gazing at CC cup that stood flat against her body as it lay against the bed, her nipples erect atop her light pink areolas. She was about to say something when Naruto bent forward and took her left nipple in his mouth, playfully biting it. Haku moaned instantly, forgetting every little bit of thought that resided in her the same time. He was massaging her other with tender, yet powerful strokes. Haku could feel her juices leaking out again, as well as a familiar pressure build up from between her legs as Naruto continues his ministrations after switching to suck on her right, twisting the left nipple slightly with his fingers, nearly making Haku orgasm again from the pleasure spreading over her body in waves. Tsunami watched still encased in the ice, unable to even touch herself to help relieve the pressure that was building up in her vagina from watching two obvious virgins go at it. She saw that Naruto did not really know what the hell he was doing, basically following his gut on what seemed to pleasure Haku the most. That wasn't wrong, as Haku couldn't speak a word, just moan and raise her voice to a high pitch, just below screaming, from the pressure that assaulted her nerves. She sighed, sticking there to the wall, unable to move, just waiting for her turn at the man she loved. At this point Naruto finished off the he was pleasuring. He left lingering kisses on both nipples as he moved away and down Haku's body, leaving a trail of kisses down past her navel and right above her treasured region. Haku's eyes began to widen as Naruto's head moved lower, getting slowly closer to her region in a dramatic fashion. She swallowed a small bit of bile that had built up in her throat due to her nervousness. But she relaxed into the epitome of pleasure, as slowly Naruto began to kiss around the lips of her entrance, not coming close to the sensitive flesh that would raise the levels of her pleasure even further. Her screams reached a crescendo as Naruto's tongue slowly entered her, exploring the inside of her like an intrepid explorer explores the jungle. Naruto found a little nub that forced himself to focus on. For the instant he put pressure to it, Haku lost the little control that she had left and screamed out in pleasure, orgasm a second time. She lay there panting as Naruto moved back up, using his fingers to send her over the edge in a few quick seconds again. Her hands roamed his body, slowly peeling away his clothes, making it be as if they were never there. Tsunami and Haku could not help but drool as they gazed at Naruto's toned body, his muscles taut and strong, but not overlarge and unattractive. They gazed lower and lower till they spotted his cannon, for lack of a more appropriate word, standing proudly at 10 inches long, nearly 1.5 wide. Haku and Naruto met each other's gazes and with a gentle smile, nodded. Naruto smiled in return and slowly began to enter Haku, making her moan both from pleasure and desperation to have the man she loved inside of her. He entered so slowly that she began to growl, which in panic made him move faster, if only slightly. He reached some sort of barrier and once more gazed at Haku. The beautiful woman had her eyes closed in ecstasy, which nodded once more. With that Naruto pulled back slightly and thrusted into the woman he loved, breaking through her barrier. She did not even notice the pain, but what she did notice was that she suddenly felt whole and full beyond belief. Naruto slowly began to thrust in and out of the woman underneath him. She slowly began to moan and panted out, faster, harder, faster, harder, faster, harder. Her moans growing into screams. Naruto followed her command and began to thrust faster and harder. It wasn't long before Haku felt a familiar burn in her belly, just a lot more intense. Naruto's own groans joined Haku's own, his mind awash with emotions that he did not know what to do with. With an air-twisting scream from both, not of pain but of pleasure, Haku came all over Naruto's lower regions and he erupted into her precious depths. Unnoticed by the three horny people in the room, above Haku's heart appeared a small dragon wrapped around a heart. Think about a heart you would draw, stenciled in what appeared to be a mix of water and ice. Haku's eyes drifted shut and with her approaching sleep fell her control over the ice that held Tsunami to the wall. Naruto slowly arranged the sleeping woman on the bed and turned to Tsunami in a slow sinuous manner. He did not even have to wait long. The woman stared at the prize before her. She did not walk, she leapt at Naruto, wrapping his legs around his waist and locking her ankles together, impaling herself atop him member in an instant. Naruto did not know how he knew, but it entered his mind that this woman was not one for theatrics. Pushing Tsunami back against the wall and began to attack her with what could only be called bunny thrusts. At the speed his thrust entered her, Tsunami raised up her head and barely held in her screams of outright pleasure. Those were soon released when the nipples that were pointy as daggers were sucked on by Naruto, having seen her DD and not been able to resist. Tsunami's screams rang throughout the room in an echo effect, yet none outside the house seemed to hear them. Naruto could not hold it anymore and came into Tsunami with extraordinary force. Just like on Haku, an engraved emblem of a dragon surrounding a heart appeared above her own, only it seemed to be made of a pure black substance. Naruto, still acting on instinct, threw Tsunami onto the bed roughly, somehow not waking up the other sleeping woman next to her, landing on her chest. She slowly got on her hands and knees, dazed from the impact of the shock, light as it was. She did not expect him to thrust his still hard member back into her from behind. She did not try to hold back her screams that time. She had to admit though, that she was in pure bliss. Naruto thrust into her again and again, varying his speeds between slow and fast, light and hard. It drove her into a state of near continuous orgasm. At last she shut her eyes, unable to take it anymore, falling asleep, still feeling Naruto thrusting into her, till she felt sleep taking her, as well as a slight pain that hit her sense that she was unable to register. Two pairs of glowing eyes opened slowly, squinting as the sun hit them as its light poured in through the open window. They turned and focused on each other, before their owners let out contented sighs. That was so, damn, I can't think of the right word. I know, I have never experienced it that way. He was so loving and gentle, yet somewhat wild and demanding, all at once. All true. Speaking of him, where is he? The door to the room opened slowly, revealing the one that they had momentarily been speaking about, Naruto, of course. Hey, how are you feeling? Haku responded by sitting up, the cover peeling off, revealing perky CC cup, her nipples still poking as daggers and bouncing slightly. We're just fine, Naruto-kun, and wanting more. Naruto smiled and said, as do I, Haku-chan, but if we did anything now, people would wonder what the hell was going on. Anyways, there is something rather serious that I would like to ask you two about. Tsunami got up, her DD bouncing slightly, nipples still erect as well, and asked, what could be more important than us getting what we want? Naruto said, because this will make it easier, reluctantly. That got the attention of both women in an instant. Naruto closed his eyes and took a deep breath. He began, like Haku said last night, our hearts fit like pieces to a puzzle, filling empty gaps that I did not even know I have. As such, leaving you behind, Tsunami and Haku, as I will have to go back to Konoha, I have a very important question to ask you. Both women titled their heads to the sides as Naruto breathed in a few more times. Haku, Tsunami. Kakashi Hatake sat at the table in the dining room of Tazuna's house, reading his porn. If one were to truly focus, they would see the mischievous gleam in his eyes. I have the luckiest team in the world. The last Uchiha and the dead last with one of the most dangerous bloodlines that I have ever seen. Thank God I told him about the CRA, were his thoughts as he cackled madly. If I guessed right, Naruto is moving faster than Sasuke. Now that is a boy that is either confused or completely gay. Hopefully it's neither. At that moment in time, the whole village was awakened earlier than they had hoped, hearing a pair of womanly cries that were clearly those of joy, soon followed by the sound of a strong impact, as if somebody had been tackled to the wall. In a rush, everybody in the house rushed into the kitchen, fully alert. Tsunami and Haku soon came down the stairs, fully dressed, with the biggest smiles that any human face could muster. Naruto followed right behind them with a sheepish grin. Mom, Inari, Tsunami's young son, asked, what was the screaming about? Tsunami showed the little boy her hand. On her ring finger was a ring with a opal, a deep black opal. The opal was ringed in diamonds, set atop a gold ring. Inari, being only 7 years old and not knowing the significance of the ring, looked up at his mother and said the most common word in the human dictionary, huh. Tsunami smiled and said, I'm getting married. Inari simply stared at his mom, the words not registering. Zabuza saw that on Haku's hand there was an aquamarine also surrounded by diamonds set atop a gold ring. His eyes widened and he focused on Naruto and simply said, you were serious. Naruto faked the offensive expression that appeared on his face and replied, "You think I would joke about something that serious?" "Yes. Fuck you." Tsunami and Haku both slapped his head at the same time and said, "Language." "Yes, dears. He is so whipped," rang through the thoughts of Zabuza and Kakashi. "Daddy," Inari yelled out happily, as he latched himself to his new dad's waist, the whole room breaking out in happy laughter. "Come on, Inari, you can do it. Just a little bit higher. Just a little bit faster," yelled the resident blonde as he soared through the skies with his golden wings, beating furiously, allowing him to move side to side. In front of him flew Inari clumsily in his red armor and wings, trying to play the inventive game of tag. "Come on, Dad, stop moving and let me tag you." "No, never. I shall always win, so bring it on, son." Dodging to the left as a few dots flew by him. Down on the ground, Tsunami watched her lover and fiancé play with her son. Turning around, she stood before the campsite fire, cooking up a simple stew from some wild vegetable from the forest surrounding Konoha, along with a few fat rabbits that Haku had managed to catch. Kakashi, in the meantime, as they had traveled back from Wave after the bridge's completion, had been teaching the entire team more chakra control exercises. He also taught Sasuke and Sakura some more of the basic yet offensive type jutsu in his repertoire, while further helping to progress Naruto's swordsmanship as best he could, being years out of practice. Beckoning Haku over, who had previously been building the tents for the camp while the rest of Team 7 gathered wood for the fires and water for the night. Tazuna had decided to stay in Wave and help with the reconstruction of the village, as well as possibly remaining there to fish for the rest of his natural life, drinking while doing so. Just the life he wanted to live. Haku finished putting together the largest of the tents, Naruto's of course, to share with his two wives and stepson. Holding the ladle that had been in the pot close to her lips and blowing, she gave it to Haku and said, "Try this for me." Haku took a quick sip and said, "Perfect, a little bit too many onions for my taste, but perfect nonetheless." She smiled and called to the air above her, "Dinner is severed, boys, get it while it's hot." Team 7 walked out of the tree line soon after, having just finished setting up warning wires and traps around the camp, hearing the announcement. Not even a few seconds after them, Naruto landed and allowed his golden armor to phase out of existence. Having suffered an immense growth spurt before leaving Wave, he had to toss the horrible orange jumpsuit, much to the entire group's glee, and changed into something even better. Now he wore a skin-tight black t-shirt with sleeveless leather vest. He also wore black shinobi cargo pants, his feet inside a pair of midnight black boots that they had found in Wave. The store had managed to keep most of its stock away from the prying eyes of Gato, so they were able to give it to Naruto, at a discount of course. On each wrist he wore simple yet strong steel braces, while his shoulders were covered in wide shoulder guards, which Inari landed on as his seat. As Naruto moved over to Tsunami, he kissed her on the lips, letting her let loose a quiet moan. Haku smiled as she watched Naruto and Tsunami kiss in a quick instance, thanking Kami that she no longer had to bend down to kiss him. The growth spurt had made him grow in height as well as mass, thus explaining how easily Inari managed to sit comfortably on his shoulder. Putting Inari gently on the ground, Naruto sat around the fire with the rest of the group, in comfortable silence, till Sakura spoke. "Hey Naruto, I have a question." "Shoot," was Naruto's reply. "I know that you will marry Tsunami, and because of that she got your bloodline." She missed Tsunami and Haku's intense blushes as Naruto forced down his, if barely. But that doesn't explain how Inari managed to get the same ability. Naruto's eyes took a faraway look as he rested his chin on the palm of his hand. After a moment of silence he spoke, "I think is because Inari, messing up the kid's hair with his free hand, is Tsunami's son. The connection between him and Tsunami may be what is giving him his own set of dragoon armor. Then why not affect Tazuna in the same way? The only thing that I could come up with was that he is set with his role in life, or it could just be that he is too old to be able to get a proper hold on his chakra. That is a good point, but what about? Quote. A sudden sense of doom descended upon the little camp. Kakashi, Zabuza, Naruto, Inari stepped back slowly as a sudden amount of pressure appeared out of nowhere. Oh 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 oh. Sarutobi Hiruzen sighed as his left hand massaged his aching brain. Across from him stood Team 7, who were mostly intact, except one battered and bandaged Sasuke. Okay, started Sarutobi, let me get this straight. Naruto awoke a powerful bloodline and managed to protect you ladies, pointing to Haku and Sakura, from being wrapped by Gato and his men. Both shudder as the fear still existed within their hearts, but they nodded, if slowly. With a sorrowful look in his eyes, the Hokage continued, Naruto then killed Gato and the rest of his thugs. After a few days of recovery and repairs done to the bridge, during which Naruto proposed to both Haku and Tsunami, who both accepted into being his wives. Both women nodded, sporting identical blushes, a giggling Inari hugging his stepdad's leg with a bright smile. The Hokage sighed. What's wrong, Gigi? When you sent the original report of what happened, I was forced to tell the council of what happened to you, Naruto. They called a council meeting as soon as you arrived through the gates. They may try to force you to impregnate various other women, as well as trying to force you to leave Tsunami and Haku. It's good that you used the word try then, was Naruto's reply, an evil grin promising pain adorning his face. For some innocent reason, the look seemed to make the Hokage's day all the better. Council chambers. The civilian council glared with untold hate in their eyes at the blonde member of Team 7, standing in front of the entire council. The civilians sat on the left in rows in stadium seating, the ones of lesser rank and importance occupied the lower tiers, while those in the higher tiers were the more important ones, such as several key merchants and the village elders. This was the left side of the room. On the right, there was just a single row where all the clan heads sat gazing passively at the blonde and his heavily bandaged teammate, Sasuke. Directly across from the doors that led to the room sat the Hokage behind a simple desk. Behind him was a massive window that showed the entirety of the Hokage mountain. Now, as to why Sasuke was bandaged up, let's just jump into the tale, shall we? Now why? Scowled one of the village elders from the highest tier, as Uchiha-sama bandaged up the boy. Did you beat him so? Accusingly. No, why would I do that? Naruto said to the woman. Kaharu-san was that this dumb got himself beaten by 3 women. Various elements of the civilian council, currently called, began to growl, coming with what they thought were ingenious ideas to get back at these women when they found them, only to be stopped in their tracks. Pissed off women, that is. Never curse in front of a little kid while surrounded by his mother, second mother, and a girl who just wasn't going to let that slide, fangirl or not. Naruto added to the sentence, shaking his head with a small smile. The very same kissers began to quail in fear, as staring at the Uchiha with no sense of regret, for at some point each had felt the anger of a woman, and paid the very painful price. Time freeze. Thus came the silent rule, one that was instinctively acknowledged by men, and if it wasn't, they would learn of it the most painful way. Rule number 1 of men's laws: never piss off a woman, period. Now once more back to the story. Time defrost. Sarutobi had a grin plastered on to his face that revealed how happy he was at the concept of the Uchiha receiving a humility lesson. Now, he said, Naruto, Kakashi reported that you awakened some sort of bloodline. Can you show us, please? Also, Uchiha-san, please leave the room. The bandaged teen refused to move, staying firmly in place as he stared at the Hokage with eyes that stated his refusal. That will though left soon after with only a few words that were muttered from the Hokage's mouth. Do I need to get Sakura, Haku or Tsunami in here? He was gone a few seconds after, the laughter of the Hokage, as well as the clan heads, hounding his heels. Now, Naruto, please. The blonde bowed his head. The council stared in awe as a gold aura began to form around Naruto, soon solidifying into his armor and wings, slightly floating off the ground, he said to the Hokage, "There you go, sir." None could speak, as they were still in awe at what they saw, yet others also saw the power, the ability of destruction, their doom if they tried anything. So for once in the history of Konoha, the civilian council had the wisdom to stay silent. Shikaku Nara, clan head of the Nara, spoke first, having rested his head lazily on the table in front of him. A bloodline like this seems too powerful, like it needed a price of some sort. Naruto let his armor fade and said to the man. It did. At this the entire council sat just a little bit straighter, just a little bit more attentive. Sarutobi swallowed the bile that had built up, nervous to what was about to happen. Lifting his sleeveless shirt to show a toned stomach, with what appeared to be the appearance of a six-pack, he began to focus chakra. As he did so, he never saw the blush that appeared on the face of Sume Inuzuka, matriarch of the Inuzuka clan, as well as one other, a civilian council woman. Sume cursed inside her mind, her eyes unable to leave the toned muscles of the teen's stomach, her eyes roamed further up, getting an eyeful of what could only be an even better built chest. Thoughts entered her mind that should not have been there, at least those that were aimed at one that was decades younger than her. These visions set her insides on fire, heart pumping in a certain spot between her legs began to react. Sume could feel her scalp begin to get moist as sweat began to from, making her shining brown hair stick to her scalp. She could feel her nipples becoming hard on her, though no man could tell due to her formal kimono which gave nothing away. Yet her eyes did not stop till she noticed what was happening on his stomach. Nothing. There was a soft clatter, a pipe falling out of the Hokage's mouth hitting the top of his desk. The clan heads held their breath as time slowly edged on, with nothing happening. Many on the civilian council were staring with stupid looks on their faces, not knowing what was going on. The elders, though, also held their breath, waiting for something. Nothing. Did you really? Oh my god, said the stunned old man. Yeah, I did, Naruto said slowly, a smile growing on his face. Kyuubi is gone, permanently. The silence was unnerving, till the Hokage asked, Gone, where to? Hell. The council stared in shock, and sudden recognition. You mean to say, started a familiar pink-haired woman who appeared to be in her early 30s wearing a white kimono that hid her features from the surround council men, her pale skin glowing in the light that entered from the window behind the Hokage, her full red lips sporting a kind and loving smile, that the demon is gone, not just sealed away. Naruto looked at her and was surprised as his eyes met hers. They were green just like his teammates, but he ignored for a brief second. Nodding, he continued as he turned to the Hokage, letting his shirt fall back into place. To activate the bloodline, a sacrifice of great import, of great power and worth was needed. So I just happened to have something lying around and there you have it. The council stared in surprise, till the familiar woman spoke. I told you that the boy was no demon. Did you listen? No, drawing out the last word childishly. Be silent, Asiya, you have no right to speak her, worthless woman. Just like this demon's mother, you just happen to be a worthless whore. He stopped, feeling the cool edge of a tip near his throat. Never speak about any woman like that, Naruto's voice, having moved closer to the man as soon as the first half of the sentence had been finished, entered the kisser's ear, especially not my mother, is that clear? Pressing harder with the kunai in his hand. The man did not even nod, he just dropped in a dead faint. The newly revealed Asiya looked at Naruto with a small smile and said, Thank you, Naruto-san, for all that. Sume nodded, also bearing a small smile, unnaturally quiet. The Hokage nodded as well, and said, Well then, I guess we can tell the village now. No, came Naruto's quick reply. But, Gigi, let it die. The past is behind us and let it stay that way. Besides, telling everyone now would only cause problems for everyone, especially me. I just hope that those that do know would just let the past die instead of just letting it fester. They also would probably not believe you. I know that they wouldn't believe me. With that, Naruto began to walk out of the room, but was stopped by the Hokage, Naruto. Spinning around, the teen caught the scroll that had been tossed to him. This is yours, Naruto, what should have been yours from the beginning. Also, I will need you to come back and have your picture retaken. The blonde tilted his head to the side, a small smile present, remembering his face covered in paint when he first took the picture. Your name is being changed to what it should have been. You are dismissed, Namikaze. Naruto shrugged and left the room, closing the door silently behind him. Oh 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 oh. Alone Naruto walked down the deserted street, the sun setting behind the Hokage mountain. Upon his face, a thoughtful look was exposed as he stared at the cobbled street. The irony, he thought to himself, God damn the irony. Looking to the mountain in the distance, Naruto couldn't avoid the smile that soon grew on his face. The man I worship the most, just happens to be my father, what a coincidence. Turning away from the sight, Naruto began to make his way to the noble district and his new home, the Namikaze Estates, or would have if he did not have a saving people thing. Pav change. 3 men stood over 2 young girls, both possibly 10 years old. The look down on her strange marks present on her cheeks, looking like deep red triangles, upside down. She sat against the wall of the alley where this was all taking place. The other girl was on the ground, a bruise on her face, crying silently. Both were surrounded by what remained of their clothes, completely in the before their attackers. Well, look what we have here. 2 young little girls, offering themselves to us guys. What should we do with such an offer? Said one smiling lecherously. The 2 girls, the one that was standing having moved over to the other, stared with fear as the men moved closer and closer, menacingly. This is sick. The men stopped and snapped around quickly, pulling out hidden knives as they faced the sudden intruder upon their fun. The young girls on the other hand had started to cry silently at what was happening. Get out of here, we are just having fun, one said. The rest began to cackle maniacally, putting their knives away and turning to face their targets, never hearing the steps or the sound of moving steel. Relax auntie, everything is cool, came a male voice. The boy, Kiba Inuzuka, proud member of the clan and self-proclaimed alpha male hotshot, cowered in fear with a black eye personally delivered from his aunt, the twin sister of his own mother, Sum. Said mother spoke, please Anya, his punishment falls to me, you know that. But my baby will be found, the search dogs are out scouring the city as we speak. And you are in some really deep shit, Kiba, really deep shit. Yes mom. To the side, a younger version of Sum Inuzuka stood, staring down at her brother. Her name was Hana Inuzuka, heiress to the clan seat right after her mother. As beautiful and smart as her mother, all she could do was shake her head at her little brother, dumb little shit that he was. Just like dad, what a waste, was the main thing going by her thoughts. She stood silently as her mother berated Kiba, when the door was suddenly knocked on. I'll get it. She moved towards the compound gates as the knocking became more urgent. Relax, I'm coming. She opened the door. Back to Kiba, Sum and Anya, as the 2 older women got closer and closer to the downed male, his pup Akamaru sitting a short distance away, his paws over his eyes. If even a hair is harmed on her, Kiba, you are really gonna wish that cheating, worthless excuse of a father of yours never existed. Mom. Aunt Anya. I need you here now. Both women ran to the door before the line even reached their ears. They stopped in shock as they saw who was at their door. Naruto Namikaze stood, his cape wrapped around 2 little girls that were holding on to him for dear life. See ya, mommy. Naruto let the little girl go, revealing that she was actually wrapped in half of his cape, as she leapt at her mother, both collapsing to tears on the floor. Sum smiled at Naruto kindly and asked, thank you, but what happened? His once smiling face grew suddenly still and bleak, a red tinge Sume recognized as rage showing on his skin. Let's just say that sick bastards like them will not survive the night. I think I stopped when these ladies wanted to go home, motioning over to the little girls. Their state of dress suddenly became apparent to Sume, along with the meaning of her words. Before she was able to say anything, the other little girl said, "I want to go home." Naruto was quick to reply, "Oops, got to get her home fast. Do you know the way to the Hyuga compound, Sume-sama?" She shook her head. "It would be better if they came here, that way she can be a bit more presentable." Hana. "Yes, Mom. Go inform Hiyashi that we have his daughter safe and sound, and that the bastards that dared to hurt her are now burning in hell or soon will be." With a slight noise she was gone. "Come on, let's get them dressed," Sume said, motioning with her head towards the house. As she walked, Naruto couldn't move his eyes from the way her behind moved, seriously thinking that the beautiful woman in front of him was doing so on purpose. A short while later, both little girls were dressed in simple, plain kimonos, Sia clinging to her mother as if she would disappear at any moment. The sound of rushed feet soon reverberated through the halls. A tall man wearing a fancy white kimono nearly broke the doors down, followed by a shorter woman who stood tall behind him, wearing a large jacket with blue slacks. Her hair was short, ending at the base of her skull, a nice dark blue color that only helped bring out the pale lavender color of her eyes. Her posture was relaxed yet very tense as she walked in behind the man. "Daddy. Hinata. You're here. My sweet child. Thank Kami you are safe," the man, now identified as Daddy said, kneeling on the ground to meet his little girl that charged at him. Naruto smiled as Hinata joined the little family hug and began to walk out the door before Hiyashi noticed him. Too bad that as a dad a simple little fact like him being there would be ignored. "Naruto-san, why?" he said. "I haven't been the best person to you for a long time." Naruto did not turn nor did he stop, but he did respond as he left the room. "I can't hold a grudge against a child for the actions of their parents." Besides, he vanished from their natural sight, Hinata snapping to look at him with an intense blush. What those bastards wanted to do was just fucking sick. In the distance, the sound of a shutting door reverberated through the silent and tense halls. Oh. Next morning, Naruto walked around the busy streets, many sending him glares that he mostly ignored. What he did not expect was to get attacked by two little figures that suddenly burst out from the crowd around him, successfully tackling him to the ground. "Sia, don't charge off like that," said the woman who Naruto had just seen the day before holding her daughter as if her life had depended on it. "Hanabi, leave Naruto alone," came Hinata's strong voice. "No," both girls said instantly, not letting go of their little holds on his legs. Naruto let out a laugh from the ground, and said, "Don't worry, it's not that bad." He got up with help from Anya and Hinata, each grasping a hand to help pull him up. Both girls refused to let go of him, their arms wrapped around his legs. "So everything turned out alright?" Naruto asked, looking at both the ladies in front of him. Anya smiled and stretched her arms, making her shirt tight against his skin. Naruto did his best, but he did notice that her were bigger than average, but he only cast a quick glance as to not get caught. "Just a long night. Sume told me what she thought happened to Sia, that it was really hard to sleep. Kept waking up and running to her room making sure she was there. I eventually gave up with not finding her there and just stayed up." Naruto had a sad look on his face. "Sorry that I couldn't stop it before it happened like it did." Anya replied, "Shut up. You saved their lives and that is good enough for me." Hinata hugged Naruto with a blush on her face and said, "She's right. At least you got there. There is the chance that many saw what was happening and just walked away. You stopped and said something. You saved their lives and their sanity. That is better than what many would have done. Some of the sick bastards were probably those who asked to join them." Naruto fought to his best to hold his blush, feeling two pillows being pushed into his chest. Large, expansive, squishy pillows. Dear, a voice said from behind him, I thought you had to see the Hokage about something. Tsunami stepped next to him and asked, Oh, sorry, did not mean to interrupt. Staring at Hinata with a suspicious look. This is Anya, Sia's mother and Hinata, Hanabi's older sister. You know, the girls that I told you about last night. Tsunami smiled and stretched out her hand. Hi, I'm Tsunami, this bloke's, poking Naruto with her elbows, fiance. One of them at least. Hinata and Anya's eyes narrowed dangerously. Before he could explain, Tsunami interrupted, Let me talk with them, dear, you have that meeting with the Hokage. And remember, dinner is at 6 o'clock. Don't be late. He sighed and answered, Yes, dear. I trained you well. No, you did not. This is my instinct protecting me. Before Tsunami could make an intelligent response to his comeback, Naruto disappeared in a puff of smoke, leaving 2 logs behind, each being held by a little girl. Scene break. The Hokage looked at Naruto, standing at attention before him. I heard about what happened. Naruto did not react, just calmly replied, Yes, sir. The assailants were found this morning. 2 bled out few hours before being found, the other 2 barely survived. Naruto remained silent. The Hokage nodded and said, Good job. This caught Naruto. What? The old man smiled. Good job. Scum like that deserved what you gave them, anyways. The old man continued after a short moment of shuffling through paper on his desk. Team 10 has requested reinforcements. They are few days south, at the Koryo village. The village was suffering a small thug problem that was not so small. So you are being sent along with Team 8, as Sasuke is away on clan business and Sakura has recently conjured the flu for some unknown reason. You leave in 30 minutes. Sir, Naruto saluted, the old man never noticing the younger teen's evil smile. In a few short moments, Naruto stood at the gate, watching as Team 8 came up to him. Kiba seemed to be limping with their sensei, Kurenai if he remembered her name correctly, following close behind. Shino walked next to an excited-looking Hinata. Naruto waved, Hinata waving back. With a small puff, Haku appeared next to him wearing the same outfit she wore on the bridge in Wave, a leaf headband proudly tied to her forehead. She kissed him with a lecherous smile, gave him an envelope. Tsunami, she said if you don't come back in one piece she will kick you like only a mother can. Naruto began to panic. With a smile Haku vanished with, if you don't get hurt, well you get rewarded. Naruto now began to panic and get turned on at the same time, if it were ever humanly possible. It only got worse when Hinata got close to him and whispered to him, Tsunami and Haku both approve of me and Anya. Without a word from Naruto his blush intensified to ripe tomatoes levels, receiving a clueless glance from the males of the team, a glare from Kurenai, Naruto turned so that Team 8 would not notice his little problem. All Hinata did was giggle. Kurenai stood in front of the 4 genin and said, You know the mission, provide support to Team 10 and make sure that they get home. The last count we had was that they were only a score, but the report that came with the request said there were easily over 100 thugs, possibly more. Let's do this right and not come home with body bags. With that solemn word the team left the gates. Ino Yamanaka was not having a good day. Scratch that. She was not having a good week. This regular little C-rank mission had to be the easiest of all C-rank missions. Just go out to this village in the middle of fucking nowhere, alongside a major river in the region and clear out the camp of thugs that were causing too much trouble. Simple, to the point, easy, get in, get done and go home. But, of course, there had to be more than just, what was it again? Ah yes, a score of thugs, maybe a little less. What did Team 10 of Konoha Genin find instead? A camp, with more than 100 thugs all armed with very sharp pointy objects with the occasional blunted yet heavy piece of crap, the last few were their own words. Then when they showed up, Team 10, consisting of the ever-eternal goddess Ino, as she referred to herself, the lazy Shikamaru Nara and the F.A., excuse me, big boned black hole, Choji Akamaiki, began to have their asses kicked by mere thugs. To their defense, there were a lot of the bastards. Her sensei, Asuma Sarutobi, stood behind her, pushing the attacking thug back, his trench knives dripping blood. In the distance, the retreating civilians, her two teammates a short distance in front of her. Go, Asuma yelled at her, I can hold them here, go. She would have stepped further away from her sensei if not for the little fact that someone had eaten a banana and not thrown away the peel, and being that some kind gentleman was not polite enough to step on it before her, she had the honors of landing on her because of the greatest cliché present in the universe of clichés. Sad, so very sad. And to only add to her ever-growing list of problems, Asuma missed one thug who worked his way around by accident and got behind him. Seeing Ino on the ground, the ugly son of bitchy whore raised his sword as he moved closer, Asuma not even realizing that there was someone approaching his student. Ino did though, and her life flashed before her eyes. All the times that Sasuke told her to shut up. All the times that Sakura called her a pig. All the times that she fell over and refused to get back up on her own. All the times she had belittled others just to get a laugh. All the times that she had thrown out food because she wanted to be thin. All the times that she had bought shampoo over real necessities. All the things that needed to be added to list in hope of tormenting others. She sweat dropped. Her life sucked. The man lifted his sword with a gruesome smile. Ino snapped her eyes shut, waiting for the bite of the steel's edge. It resounded through the area, above the screams of the dying, above the screams of the fleeing women and children, above the sound of clashing steel. The resounding sound of hungry steel meeting the soft flesh of the human body. Ino sat there, waiting still, not moving. Slowly, she opened one of her dark blue eyes to gaze up at her attacked, to just snap it open in shock as the man stumbled back, dropping his sword in the process, a kunai wedged just above his heart. He raised his head, letting Ino see the pain and surprise that the man obviously felt. He soon began to walk forward, slowly, veering side to side, ominously reaching his hand that was not clutching the kunai at Ino, with a begging look in his eyes. She couldn't move, even as he stepped closer and closer, even as his hand closed around her throat. Damn it, you really are a stupid blonde, Ino. The thug flew back as a kunai entered his head, letting go of Ino's throat. Ino snapped around and stared as a man she had a feeling that she knew stepped forward and stopped alongside her. Staring at the blonde teen that was a head or so taller, the girl clad in a purple skirt with a matching top, standard shinobi sandals, her ankles wrapped in bandages firmly around her ankles, the paled-skinned girl decided to say the first thing that came to her mind. Who the fuck are you? The man looked at her with a twitching eyebrow. You really don't know who I am. Ino narrowed her eyes at the man before her, ignoring the body that flew over her head with a huge slash across of its chest over their heads. Distantly she heard her sensei yell, "A little help here, people. Are you listening? Hello." Blue eyes, blonde hair, goofy smile that appears out of the blue, why does this all ring a bell? Was a string of her thoughts as she crossed her arms and closed her eyes. So ignorant of the situation, she did not notice the man shake his head and draw another kunai and move towards Asuma, followed by another group of blurs. Who are you, stranger? Pav change. God damn it all, that girl is the real definition of a stupid blonde. Was Asuma whining as Naruto joined the fight along with Team 8, quickly driving back the many thugs in front of them, Naruto, Asuma and Kurenai doing most of the killing, while the other genin incapacitate every one of their targets. Naruto had a serious look on his face though, that is not the issue. She is not Ino. What? Asuma hollered out, that is a load of bull. Tell you what, we make a bet. You win, you can name a condition that is reasonable and within the law, the same if I win. Deal. Deal. A short moment later, the thugs ran in retreat, leaving their dead and wounded behind. Scene change. The two genin teams sat in an empty house, long since abandoned, all of it was bare, the white paint beginning to peel off. Sensei, was the prominent baby voice of Ino, why is there no water to take a shower? I must look good for Sasuke-kun. Shut up. I told you that damage to the house's pipes prevent that. But why? Came the baby whine again. Ino, what the fuck do you want? Clang. There stood Hinata, holding a stainless steel pot that Choji had brought with him, with a new design of Ino's face implanted on it. Hey, that was an expensive pot. Choji hollered. I'll get you a new one. Okay. The rest of the onlookers could not help but laugh at the situation. Asuma was the first to break from his laughs. So Naruto, he said, you mentioned that this wasn't Ino, why do you say that? Simple, he said, moving over to the young girl on the ground. These seal right here. Pointing to a place on the back of her neck, the Konoha group could see that where her neck met her back there was a small circular seal. How come we didn't notice that before? Choji asked with a dumbfounded look. Shikamaru was quick to respond. It would be simple to make it work. There probably is a seal out there that would prevent certain people from seeing what is there. All they would need something like a hair or blood. But why take away the real Ino? Hinata asked. Only those that have her would know. The only thing we can do is question this one. Asuma, would you like to do the honors? Naruto asked. None of them noticed that Kurenai had not stopped glaring at the sensei to Team 10, rage evident in her eyes. Asuma swallowed and nodded. Oh. Next day, a tired Asuma sat at the makeshift table that was made out of various brick and planks of wood that the teams had found around the ruined house. The Yamanaka are going to have a rude awakening, he murmured to himself, staring out the gaping hole in the wall that served as a window. Why do you say that? A voice spoke out. Recognizing Naruto, Asuma slowly placed the trench knives away. Her name is Reika Yamanaka, Ino's cousin. Kiba spoke up. I remember her, didn't she drop out of the ninja program? As the rest of the teams moved into the room, Kurenai spoke up. No, she was kicked out for poor grades and having come really close to raping Sasuke. Naruto spoke up. But why would someone want to replace Ino? Kiba spoke up. Maybe cause she was too wild. Kurenai and Hinata instantly turned red, snapping to look at the young boy with fire in his eyes, and what is that supposed to mean? Was Kurenai's furious reply, barely kept under control. He's right. This drew the shocked gaze of Kurenai and Hinata straight to Naruto, as well those of surprise from the rest of the silent males of the room, happy to be away from the scrutiny. Think about it, Naruto said quickly, not noticing the look of rage on Kurenai's face and the one of thought on Hinata's. Ino is not one to simply bow to someone and say, yes master. The day that happens, I'll eat my kunai. Anyways, her spirit is just like Kiba said, wild and uncontrolled. Whoever took her probably wanted a puppet to use in an attempt to control Sasuke or someone else. Reko was the easy one to control and took only a little to make it appear like she was Ino. There was a tense silence, till an immense chakra burst ruined the solemn moment. That did not feel good, Choji muttered. Asuma and Kurenai tensed. No way, Asuma said, this power isn't human. Shikamaru summarized this current development with the best word possible, troublesome. Oh. I have little experience with battle scenes, so give me a small break here. The bridge that spanned the large river on the northernmost end of the village was very old, made of solid stone with blocks that must have weighed tons, all fit so perfectly that not even a piece of paper could fit between them. On the other side, a small tide of thugs began to slowly move across the bridge, almost like a limp. The genin team stood hidden among the houses at the other end, staring at the oncoming horde. Something's wrong, Kiba said. Kiba, just shut up and get ready, this ain't gonna be easy, came Kurenai's voice. But, where are the dead bodies Asuma-sensei left here? That got their attention. Their entire way here, across the roofs of destroyed homes, some caved in from lack of support, the streets should have had quite a few corpses due to the skirmish that had happened the previous day. There had been quite a few, laying in pools of their own life's blood on the cobblestones of the street, sometimes with an occasional separated limb. They weren't there anymore. Instantly, they all focused at the other side of the bridge. They smell of blood, and something else, something very foul, said Kiba with a green face. The thugs slowly approached the end of the bridge that connected to the village before stopping, all of them focusing their gazes on the ninja that stood openly at the bridge's end. Moans and groans soon escaped their lips, as if they were unable to speak. "Oh, Kami," spoke Hinata, her Byakugan fully active, shaking in disgust and fear. "Hinata, what's wrong?" Never breaking eye contact with the line of men on the bridge. Before she could answer, Naruto spoke up, "Please tell me that someone knows fire jutsu." One particular thug moved slowly to the front, blood dripping on its chin with horrible gashes spread all across his body, opening it up like a can, internal muscles and organs visible through the gaping holes in the flesh. "By Kami," was all Asuman said, his mouth opened wide, staring up. There, atop the trees behind the small army of thugs, floated a large, really large skeleton. Surrounding its bird-like head were eerie dark blue flames, with arms that were at least 10 feet long. The hands looked to be a big mass of claws rather than bone. Its rib cage was fully reveled, a single pulsing sphere of fire with what looked like a crystal within it, sending more flames across its bones through blue veins. It had no legs, the thing just floated there with its rib cage ending in a triangular point about 20 feet below its head. It stared ominously across the bridge, before letting out an inhuman roar that shook the very ground they stood on. With matching roars, although smaller and not as powerful, the men began to charge forward at a limp, faster than any limp should be able to move. "They aren't alive," was all Hinata said, her eyes wide in fear, shaking as they watched the incoming horde. "No offense Hinata, but I think that was kind of obvious with the first bastard with holes in his chest where lungs should be," came Kiba's horrible snappy comeback. Ignoring the comment, without removing his eyes from the approaching horde, Naruto asked, "Where is the chakra-focused Hinata?" Kiba answered, "Didn't you hear her? You dead last. They are all dead, of course they wouldn't have chakra on their heads and spines," was Hinata's instant response as Kiba shut his mouth. "What? To keep them standing there must be chakra already implanted by that demon. Best guess to kill them is to damage their spine of brains permanently. Setting them on fire also helps along with ripping them to pieces." Kurenai looked at the blonde and asked, "How do you know this stuff? Or if it will even work?" Her gaze focused on the horde that was moving towards them, approaching the end of the bridge rapidly. "I'm not sure if it will work, just that it's the only idea I have got based off a book I read." "A book?" was her comeback. "Do you have any better ideas?" The silence answered was all he needed. The dead got closer and closer, some carrying weapons or other loose and heavy objects before they seemed to freeze. Looking back and forth, Akamaru stood there, his mouth open as if to bark, frozen still. "Do not worry Naruto, I just stopped time for a brief second," came a familiar voice. The beautiful woman that was Kami walked into his line of sight. Her face held a small smile that quickly disappeared. "That demon needs to be destroyed. I got that Kami-chan, but how? It's a demon for a reason." Her eyebrow went up as she continued, "Remember the mission I gave you, to destroy the remaining 8 Biju. It would make sense that you possessed something that would help you do that," leading him on. "The dragoon swords. Exactly. Just as dangerous as they are to humans, they are to demon and the Biju. The only really large issue is that demons are stronger than humans, so taking them down is not going to be easy." "What is easy in life that is not worth fighting for?" The woman smiled. She leaned in and gave a light peck against his lip and soon began to vanish with a last piece of advice, "I can't wait for my turn." Time resumed. The horde was mere feet away from the edge of the bridge when Asuma let loose a massive wind jutsu that threw many of them over the bridge sides into the reeking waters below. More just flew over their dead comrades that did not stop by the wind's pressure, trampling many of the fallen into bloody paste. We need to kill that demon, Asuma yelled, as the ninja moved back a bit, Choji and Kiba throwing kunai at the dead, with the occasional hit to the head that made sure they would not move again, while others just ignored the pieces of metal sticking out of them. Leave that to me, just work on staying alive. Instantly, Naruto's dragoon armor flowed into existence, surprising all of them. Kurenai couldn't help but think, beautiful. Hinata's thoughts were locked behind a steel gate, for the only thing that reverberated through the caverns of her mind were, must take armor off, must take armor off, and must take armor off. Beating his wings, Naruto rose and flew as fast as possible towards the demon at the forest line. The demon saw the golden dot flying at it, but ignored it as inconsequential, that is till the dot impacted it like a steel hammer to a nail, sending it crashing into the ground with a mighty crash. Who dares strike the might cheek? The demon slowly rose up again, its blue eyes staring at the floating Naruto with his swords in hand. "Me, you overgrown chicken," Naruto spoke out. "How dare you? I shall destroy you like the insolent little bug that you are. Bring it." With a roar, the demon soared at him, swinging a claw quicker than the human eye could follow. Naruto wasn't ready, the full force of the claw impacting his side, throwing him to the ground with a loud crash, sending dust and tree limbs far into the air due to the impact. From within the falling debris, Naruto flew out, appearing to only be a golden dot that moved too quickly and slammed into cheek, only to bounce off. Shaking his head to loosen up the stars that he was seeing, he muttered, "Damn, this is not going to be easy. Your mere attacks cannot penetrate my bones, worthless scum. Prepare to die." Swinging again in Naruto's direction. This time Naruto was ready, moving above the limb as it swept underneath him. The floating demon began to sweep its arms vigorously and with little grace that allowed Naruto predict the motions and dodge, but the damn thing was fast, preventing him from getting close. Timing it right, the demon stabbed its claws in a furious attempt to nail what it believed to be a pest. Swing aside, Naruto slashed up with his right-handed blade, completely removing the demon's claw at the wrist. With a pain-filled scream, the demon grasped its wrist, which began to ooze with blue flame that fell in globs, vanishing into the air on the way down. Naruto watched the demon bleed, burn, whatever it was. Did not see that coming. His curiosity was to cost him though, as a blue glow started to settle in the beak of cheek. He did notice what was happening, as the demon opened its maw and let out a literal river of flame right on top of him. As the flames receded, the shape that was Naruto could be seen standing on the ground below, if barely. "I gotta end this now, damn it, that hurt. See, you foolish mortal, you cannot beat the mighty cheek, I am invincible." A glow began to build up just above of Naruto's chest, both his hands focused at its side. "Die!" the demon roared, charging at Naruto, readying its remaining claw. Grand, the glow solidified instantly into the size of a basketball, a deep red color, flare, the sphere burst into flames, golden red in color, shot. Letting the sphere of fire go, it seemed to drop down. Naruto raised his right leg and kicked with all the might that he could manage. Cheek did not even manage to dodge the speeding sphere, as it impacted his face, bursting into an intense flame that spread quickly over the bones. His shrieks were deafening. Completely lost in the burning pain, he let himself drift too much to the right, completely missing the exhausted Naruto and careening into a different object, the bridge. "Pav change. I'm out of kunai," Hinata yelled, her piece of pointy steel impacting the neck of an undead man who had his guts on display as he dragged them around, nearly taking Shikamaru's head off. "Anyone have one I can use?" "Don't look at me. Last time we nearly got close, one of the damn things nearly ripped my arm off," responded a panting Kiba. Kurenai yelled out, "I've got one. We must relax, Uzumaki-san has taken care of it," Shino said. A heavily panting and exhausted Asuma looked at the young Aburame and asked, "Why do you say that?" All Shino did was point. The exhausted Nin watched, As if by some untold signal, all the undead dropped into heaps, as if a puppet had lost its strings. There, impacting the bridge, an enormous body of fire impacted the bridge, soon followed by an explosion of stone and chakra. The nins instantly moved their tired bodies into the surrounding ruins, large pieces of the stone bridge landing among them. With a loud bang, a piece of the bridge went through the wall with which Shino decided he would hide behind, missing his head by little less than an inch. Now is the time to worry. As the sound of falling debris stopped, the nins of Konoha moved back out on the body-infested streets of the now unrecoverable village. Naruto landed next to the stunned group and let his armor vanish. Seeing the unmoving bodies, both teams collapsed, Naruto leaning on a shaking and blushing Hinata, the rest lying on the ground. There is nothing left here, said Choji though panted breaths. We sleep and let the remaining know what happened, responded Asuma. Then we head home, Shikamaru said. Yeah, was the collective exasperation. But I have got to make one last comment, Kiba said. What's that, Kiba? Dragons make a mean, fired giant chicken.